That's never happened before. That's never happened before. I can't speak. I can't speak. I can't speak. That has never, ever happened before. I don't even know why it happened. I can't speak. I can't speak. That's ridiculous. There was a problem. Yeah, well, I don't know why that happened. It's never happened before, but I will do the intro again because it was a good intro. So let's start it again. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello everybody and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news and transfer news, and you do not want to miss what I've got to tell you about Erik ten Hag and what he's done this year. But let's get straight into the news because Erik ten Hag is frustrated with John Murtough and the recruitment team last summer and has demanded that they get deals done quickly this summer. He wants to know who wants to be part of the Manchester United journey, who doesn't want to be part of the Manchester United journey, who we can get, who we can't get, and he wants them in quick. So if Harry Kane's going to take all summer, we move on to Ramos at Benfica. If Mason Mount fancies Liverpool, we move on to somebody else. If Kim Min-jae's not going to come to Manchester United, we maybe move on to Timber. He wants things done quicker because he knows that this club is a long way off where he was at Ajax. And we'll get into that. And I think you're going to find something really interesting about that. On top of that, we've also got Newcastle still interested in Scott McTominay. Should Manchester United do a deal for that? David De Gea is ready to sign his new contract, but Erik ten Hag has got to sign it off. Will he sign it off? We'll talk about that as well. Also, the latest, of course, on what is going on with Mason Mount. We play Chelsea tonight, and also financial fair play a little bit, and also a little bit about the sale. But look, the reality is the big story this morning. We spoke about Mason Mount yesterday. Obviously, we know that Mason Mount wants to come to Manchester United, but the harsh reality is that Ten Hag, the harsh reality is that Erik ten Hag has been at Manchester United for a year now. And I think people are sleeping on two things here. Evidence makes you more learned. And I still think that we don't really know who Erik ten Hag is as a manager. We have the evidence of Ajax and we have the evidence of the first year at Manchester United. And they're very, very different. They're very different beasts. Because at Ajax, it was 70% possession, loads of shots on target, attacking, oppressive, suffocating football. At Manchester United, it's been more pragmatic. It's been more built on a strong defence, lots of clean sheets with moments. They're like that. Ajax and Man United in style of play, it's like this. He's got to bring this Man United side up. And that is why when people start moaning about Mason Mount is taking you up. A Mason Mount signing is to take us up to closer Ajax. He wants that team to be in the final third of the opposition a lot more. And if you're in the final third of the opposition, Casemiro and, I don't know, McTominay doesn't work. You need the Erikssons, you need the Mason Mounts, and that's what he wants. But the problem with Eriksson is he's not energetic enough when you need to win the ball back. So I can see why he wants Mount. I think we need a defensive midfielder as well. But on top of that, the recruitment. Ten Hag has had 1 year at this football club now. You know the problems because you've been following the club for years. I know the problems as well. But Ten Hag has had to learn this from the rock face over the last year. It was impossible for Erik ten Hag to do everything that needed to be done last summer. He came into the club around now. He told them the players he wanted. They missed out on most of them. Darwin Núñez, Frenkie de Jong, Timber. They missed out on a lot of his players, and he moved to second targets, and they got them in. But they got them in late. Only Malacia went on tour. Martinez, Eriksson, and certainly Casemiro and Antony came in late in the window. So the recruitment was crap last summer. He got players, and he produced a great season with what happened, but the recruitment last summer was rubbish, and you know it. We all lived it. It was all over the place. We were trying to sign Arnautovic, Rabiot, then it was Casemiro and Antony. We took all summer trying to get De Jong. We were flying to Turin, flying to Barcelona. It was a bad summer, and Erik ten Hag had to endure that. The recruitment was poor. The list that he was given by United when he came into the club, he basically ripped it up. So look, Ten Hag has had a year, but he's also only had a very short period of time where he can say, sell that player, buy that player. Oh, you didn't get me that player. Bloody hell, let's move on to this one. So Ten Hag, whilst he's been rebuilding Manchester United as a football club, he's also had a year to assess the problems within the football club. And obviously there are huge problems around players. You know, there will be players going this summer. He's got to be ruthless after a year. You look at certain players and you go, you're not good enough. But he's also got to be ruthless about his recruitment. Do you think we should sign Kane this year and not sign Højlund so we can get Ferguson next year, says Salim? I don't know. I don't know about that. I think the striker situation I'll talk to you about in a minute. But one thing I wanted to get out very, very quickly here is that Erik ten Hag, you might say, I want Man United to sell Harry Maguire. And maybe we will sell him this summer, maybe we won't. But one thing we need to look at is that the recruitment team at Manchester United is relegation standard compared to Ajax. Manchester United do not recruit well, and Erik ten Hag needs to be able to reform that. Because a lot of the people in the recruitment team are still the same people that were here under Solskjaer, and they're not very good. And what I mean by that is Mason Mount's an obvious signing and he's expensive. Harry Kane is an obvious signing and he's expensive. Osman is an obvious signing and he's expensive. Kim Min-jae is an obvious signing and he's expensive. There's nothing inventory or dramatic or hard-working about highlighting those types of players. They're just obvious signings. They're very good, but they're obvious. You look at Ajax, right? In the time that Erik ten Hag was there, you look at the Ajax side that won the league last year. In the time that he was there, Tagliafico was bought in from Argentina. Martinez was bought in from Argentina. Antony was bought in from Brazil. And Alvarez was bought in from Mexico. Say what you like about the quality of those players and the quality of Ajax, but that's the sort of recruitment team Erik ten Hag had behind him. Two of those players are now Man United players, and some people wouldn't mind Alvarez as well. Those players were brought in from South America and North America, Mexico. That is proper scouting. That is proper recruitment. That saves you money. Manchester United, look at what Brighton do. Brighton are bringing players in from all over the place, all over Europe as well. United are going for Mason Mount, Harry Kane, Kim Min-jae, Osman, all going to massively improve us, all massively expensive. Ten Hag is working with a recruitment team that is just not good enough. It's not good enough. And I feel that he has to kick it up the arse and say, go and get these deals, because they're not actually, they're not bringing him opportunities like Martinez, like Antony, like Alvarez. They're never going to do that. They're not good at finding those types of players. And we have a manager that will do it. If we had recruiters that went, I found this midfielder from Colombia that looks like he's going to be the next, superstar, Ten Hag would say, let's get him over. But that doesn't happen at Man United. We're so bad at recruitment. So I think it's worth bearing in mind when people say, oh, why are we buying Mason Mount? Because I was thinking about this last night. Why are we going for Mason Mount? There's plenty of players in Europe out there. Well, there probably is, but Man United aren't going to find them for him, and he hasn't got time to do it himself. He's managing Man United every 3.5 days all season. He's dealing with a squad that he's got to remove players from. If I'm Erik ten Hag, I am basically going, look, it's lazy, but I want Kim Min-jae, I want Mason Mount, I want Harry Kane. They will massively improve us, and I know everything about them because they're very obvious players. What he wants is, what he had at Ajax as well, he wants the dossier on 5 midfielders across the world that are Mason Mounts at half the price, and goes, right, what do you think? But he hasn't got that recruitment team around him. And at Ajax, you do have that. And at Brighton, you do have that. United are really missing this. And I wanted to get it in early in the show because it's really important, because people say, why are we spending 60 million on Mount? Why are we spending 100 million on Kane? Why are we spending, why are we going for obvious signings that are good, but they're so expensive? Because we just don't have the recruitment team at Man United. And I think it's a real important headline that many people won't home in on. We cannot do what Brighton do. We cannot do what Ten Hag had at Ajax. Those players are there. There is a Mason Mount in South America, maybe even South Africa. There are 50 Mason Mounts around the world at a lot cheaper price who will be better than him. But we're not aware of them because we don't have that recruitment setup. And Erik ten Hag can't go and find them on his own. He needs that setup. So we're just going to have to work through this summer transfer window on the obvious signings, who will make us better but will be expensive, because we don't have that recruitment. And that is appalling. But that is not Ten Hag's fault. People think Erik ten Hag's got the time to run Man United and fly over to South America on a scouting mission and find the next Fernandez or the next Martinez or the next Anthony. He hasn't. You've got to have that recruitment team, and United don't have it. So I hope that answers a few people's problems, because when you look at that Ajax team, there were players coming in from South America, North America, Europe that were, well scouted. But Ajax have got that in place. Man United have neglected it. Man United have ignored it. We don't have good recruiters. And whether Ten Hag can change that or not, I don't know. But that is why he is there doing what he can, saying, look, you're not going to give me a list of 5 midfielders from South America because you're not good enough. Mason Mount's the midfielder I want, and I want it done by the end of June. Harry Kane's the striker I want, and if I want it done by the end of June. Look, you can't bring me sparkling prospects that nobody's aware of. So you're not very good at your job anyway. So do something right and get me these transfers done quickly. And that's basically what Ten Hag is saying. We really should have given ourselves a head start for next season by using the January transfer window. I hope changes under a new owner, says Glennie. And I can feel we will get worse before we get better if we don't buy quality. If play open football with second-class players will leak goals, I think that's one of the reasons we've relied on our defence, as BGT. And do you think we can get João Felix? He could play as a striker, a cam. I don't know, Rimmen. I'm not even going to spend any time on that, because I don't think we will go for João Felix, because I think it will be a long, protracted deal. I think João Felix wants to stay at Chelsea as well, but I don't think we will. Is the reason Erik ten Hag wants Mount because we still aren't playing Erik ten Hag football? If we can improve the squad so we play more on front foot, we could play with one CDM. However, we'll still need a backup CDM, says Brendan. We do. We need a defensive-minded midfielder no matter what, because if Casemiro gets injured, there is no one. So let's just have a summary of some of the headline news. But I wanted to get that out there because Erik ten Hag should not be tainted by going for obvious signings when he hasn't got time to scout himself and he's reliant on a scouting network that doesn't do its job. Man United have always gone for obvious. When was the last time Man United bought a player that was a Ronaldo, from Sporting Lisbon, that was a prospect? Like, I can't really think of it. Malacia a little bit, but we're not. Most of the signings we make are obvious. We've got to be better at that. Plot twist, we're interested in Mount because Sir Jim is secretly winning and plans to replace Erik ten Hag with Lampard, says Stefan, or Southgate. Surely it's not even Erik ten Hag's job to do this. That's why we have a recruitment team. Exactly, Andrew. Exactly. Manchester United haven't. The thing, we spoke about this a year ago. In Erik ten Hag, you've got a manager who is a recruiter of talent. He develops young players, but he also develops players. He's the perfect manager. When you look at the improvements of Rashford, of Dalot, of De Gea this season, Bruno this season, imagine giving him an Enzo Fernandez from Boca Juniors 18 months ago, what he'd do with him. Like, we should be making these sort of signings, but it's also an area that people don't want to acknowledge. We probably need a new CEO. We definitely need a new director of football. But we also, recruitment is not your director of football. It's everything that goes on beneath. It's your scouts. It's your recruitment team. We need huge investment there, because Erik ten Hag is a wasted vessel. He's got so much room on that boat of development, and it's a wasted vessel if you don't sell it out. And what I mean by that is we should be boarding the Ten Hag vessel with talent from all over the world that's not quite Mason Mount yet, that's not quite Harry Kane yet. There's probably a striker in Brazil that we can get hold of that will turn into the next Ronaldo, R9. I mean, that's a bit of a stretch, but you know what I mean. I think he's the sort of coach that develops talent. He's wasted on obvious signings. Giving him Kim Min-jae, Mason Mount, Harry Kane, they're pretty much the players they're always going to be. You can get more out of them, but they're pretty much the players they're always going to be, and they will improve us. We should be giving him players who are, potential. And obviously our recruitment team can't do that. He needs to change that. Love you, Mark. Thank you very much, Guy. And morning, Mark. My biggest fear is if a team like Chelsea figure themselves out, we will be left there fighting for fifth again, says Fabian. For a club like United, it's unthinkable that they can't sign a few unknown gems. It's the recruitment team, Benoit. We can get Enzo Lefebvre and Joey Veerman for the price of Mason Mount, says Amy. Well, yeah, you're probably better than some of the recruitment teams, to be honest, that Man United have got. But look, let's get into some of the news this morning, because there is some coming in from The Athletic, and it's quite interesting what's being said around, certainly around Harry Kane. But they're basically saying that that Manchester United could end up going for Ramos at Benfica as the striker, because Eric Ten Hag wants to get business done really early. Christopher Aaron, thank you very much for your super chat. He wants to get business done early, and Harry Kane is a deal that he really wants to happen. But if it's going to take all summer, and even references shirt numbers, which I don't think is relevant, because it says Harry Kane wears the number 10 shirt and Marcus Rashford wears the number 10 shirt. I feel that Rashford would happily take the number 7 anyway, so I don't think that's a big issue. But Ramos wears the number 7 apparently for Benfica. I don't know whether anyone knows whether that's true. So they're talking about shirt numbers. I think that's irrelevant. I think Man United want Harry Kane. Spurs are in crisis anyway. If Man United can get that deal done quickly, I think they'll do it. If Daniel Levy acts like the person that's destroying Spurs and destroys them even more by keeping a player that doesn't want to be there, then United could move for Ramos. So it's looking like Ramos is the backup for Harry Kane, according to The Athletic, which is quite interesting. It's about the balance, isn't it? Emerging players with some world-class talent, as we need to compete now too and win trophies, says Jack. And also, if only we had Ralph Rangnick. Great show, Mark. Keep up the good work, says Clayton. And remember the fake Spanish solicitors that tells you everything about our Mike Bassett recruitment team, says Christopher. A lot of our recruitment team is still the same recruitment team that's been messing up for years. And I'm surprised, actually, that Ten Hag hasn't asked for more changes in that area. I mean, I know he brought a couple of coaches with him, but it's been quite quiet around coach recruitment. I mean, I think there's a lot of coaches at the club that were still there from the Solskjaer era. There hasn't... I'd love somebody to do a piece on that, actually, because we could probably do it on here. But what's the volume of change at Manchester United on the training ground and in the recruitment scouting network at Man United? Is it 10%? I don't think it's even 10%. I think at least 90% of the people that were there with Solskjaer are still at the club in various guises, whether it's fitness, coaching, recruitment. That's a problem. It needs changing. But Man United's always been a job for the boys. And, changing the manager presents this perception that it's a change of identity. But it's not. A manager can change some things, but if the vast majority is still the same recruitment and coaching, not a lot does change, does it? You need a clean sweep. John Rowland's right. You need a clean sweep. 100% clean sweep. What I'm saying is, at Ajax, you've got 3 or 4 players in his team from last year that were recruited from South America. And at Man United, you're never going to get that when we've got a recruitment team that's not been able to do it for the last 20 years. Really. Maybe that will come with new owners, says John. Hopefully, yes. And Harry Kane is a must. Not often you get a world-class striker on the market who no one else except Bayern needs, says Jordan. Yes. So, yeah, look, I think the big takeaway this morning is that Ten Hag wants to get business done early. And the reason he wants to get it done early is because that recruitment team let him down last year, and he knows the importance of pre-season. And Manchester United do need to get that pre-season up and running this year, without a doubt. But obviously, I don't think that we can. I find it quite encouraging that Mason Mount wants to come to Manchester United. I find it quite encouraging that Kim Min-jae wants to come to Manchester United. And I think whether those deals get over the line or not, there's too much noise around Mason Mount, obviously, and there's too much noise around Kim Min-jae for it not to be true. And I actually take that as a positive. Whatever you say negatively about Man United, Ten Hag has clearly given them a kick up the arse and said, I don't care about the sale. It has to be business as usual. And that's what it says in The Athletic. The sale is like a cloud over the club. But Ten Hag has insisted that regardless of who buys us, we will have a certain amount of money to spend. We'll figure out how we spend it when the point comes. But let's get the players and know that they want to come. We don't know whether we've got the money. I think Ten Hag is working on if it's Sir Jim, if the Glazers stay, or it's Al-Thani. There should be about £150 million to spend. So let's get moving. And, we'll solve the problem of where the money's coming from when we're negotiating with the clubs. What we're doing is securing the players. Remember the 4 stages of a transfer window. And I have to remind myself here, but there's official, announced by the club. There's deal done, where you've agreed the deal. Official with Man United announcing it, holding up the shirt. Deal done with the club that you're buying from. There's terms agreed with the player, and there's another one which I always forget. Yeah, but look, I think what Man United are doing is they've not done terms agreed yet, but they're doing the stage before. Player wants to come. Yeah, player wants to come. Terms agreed with the player. Terms agreed with the club. Official, hold the shirt up, isn't it? Do you think all these transfer rumours are just a smokescreen with Sir Jim taking over, says James? And what is wrong with Bowley? He wants 80 million for Mount. No one will pay that, and he won't sign a contract, so he can't either take the 50 or he'll go, says Nathan. I think with United, as I said, what we're doing really well at the moment is Eric Ten Hag is... don't forget, here we go, says KG. What we're doing here with Ten Hag is, and I like it, he's given them a kick up the arse in the club. He said to them at January, look, that January transfer window is a joke. If we're spending in the summer, which is what you talk about all the time, that's what Murta talks about, isn't it? Get these players. And Kim Min-jae and Mason Mount, I'm pretty sure, are going to come. It sounds like they really want to come. So they're done. Now he wants to know about Harry Kane. If Harry Kane can't happen, we move on to somebody else. And that's encouraging. So, look, there is an encouragement there. Definitely. Just on Mason Mount, what Nathan Allen was saying there, there's a story in The Athletic as well about how United want to get their business done early, but regardless of who the owner is, financial fair play could hinder United's transfer window to a degree. I disagree with this. I disagree that financial fair play will hinder our transfer window. I think that there are parameters that are probably 100 to 150 million pounds apart in relation to financial fair play. I think under Al-Thani you could probably spend 200, 300 million. I think under the Glazers you'd spend 100. And, you know, there's a big gap between 100 and 2 to 300 million. Financial fair play will stop you spending $1 billion. It will stop you spending $500 million. But you can manipulate things to make financial fair play expand. Qualifying for the Champions League gives you more revenue, which expands your financial fair play spend. Financial fair play is always based on the difference between revenue and what you spend on transfers and wages. So the more revenue, the bigger the gap. The more wages and transfers, the smaller the gap. So the best example of how financial fair play can be manipulated for Manchester United is exactly what's going to happen with Chelsea. The reason Todd Bowley, Nathan, wants £80 million for Mason Mount is because that £80 million is just a free hit on Chelsea's financial fair play. He's a homegrown talent, so there's no depreciation of cost. He's on decent wages, so you're taking Mason Mount's wages off and you're clearing whatever you get. So if Chelsea's restriction this summer is that their revenue to transfer spend is 100 million, they can only spend 100 million. If they sell Mason Mount for 60, they can spend 160 because that 60 just goes straight on or straight off. So that's how financial fair play works. If you want to spend more, you need to remove players, wages and transfers. The trouble is, with somebody like Harry Maguire, £80 million over 5 years, there's a depreciation in his value there that comes down. But with homegrown players like Dean Henderson, you get 30 million. You don't have to deduct anything. He's homegrown, bang, 30 million more to spend. So we are helping Chelsea with Mason Mount. We are, because the more they get, the more they can spend. Mark, does Bowley feel like Chelsea's Glazer to you? Feel like he makes terrible decisions like the Glazers, but for them, which is fine? No, I think he's more... I don't think Bowley's like Glazers at all. I think he's... I just think he's not very good, but he does want to be good. I say it's hard to make shows with this hamster wheel of a club, says Tony. And Mark, it's like when you split up with somebody, you get rid of every evidence of them. You don't keep a picture of them in the bedside drawer, says Jordan. Exactly. Also says in The Athletic that Scott McTominay is still a target for Newcastle. I think this is a deal that ticks all the boxes. Let me just run a poll on this. I don't know where people stand on this. It's very difficult. McTominay sort of skirts under the radar, doesn't he? I think there's worse. There's bigger priorities to sell. Some people see him as a decent bench option. He does work hard. What's your dream window? Love the show, says Kenzie. My dream transfer window that's realistic, Kim Min-jae, Casido. I would take Mason Mount with Casido if we need that attack. I think we need 2 midfielders, so I would take Mason Mount as long as we get a Casido. And Osman would be my striker. Yeah, that would be it. But apparently Newcastle still want Harry Kane. No. Newcastle still want Scott McTominay. 90% of you would sell him, which is more than I thought it would be. I think this is absolutely perfect for everybody. We don't have a place for McTominay in the team. It doesn't suit us. Newcastle, I can see why he suits them. I think I look at Newcastle's midfield with Willock and Longstaff, and I think McTominay would complement those options really, really well. I think £30 million is a very good deal for everybody. And I think he needs to play more regularly. And I think it suits everybody. I really do. I don't actually think it'll happen. I think he'll end up staying. I think, Steg says thoughts on Guri as an alternative. He's a young Benzema. Not really been linked to him though, Steg. I can see McTominay and Maguire staying, and I don't think that benefits anybody. I really do think you have to move on at some point. And McTominay's 26 now? He's not a youth player. And Maguire's 30. I think both of those players should be moving on. But I also think Newcastle get a good deal. They do. I think Newcastle get a good deal there. So, for me, it's an obvious deal to do. But I think this summer's going to be really interesting, because will we be ruthless? Will McTominay be sat down by Ten Hag and Ten Hag say, look, you've done a good job, but you're for sale? Or will it be, people like you within the club, you work hard, stay? I don't think that's enough. I don't think being liked in the club and working hard is enough. I think you're not going to play much, so you should go. But again, there's 30 million quid there. Scott McTominay's homegrown. So straight away, you talk about financial fair play. And imagine if Man United's spend is 100 million. Imagine our revenue compared to transfers and wages is 100 million gap, so we can only spend 100 million. Sell Henderson for 30 and McTominay for 30. That's 160 million straight away, because that's 60 million that's going straight into the club from sales from homegrown players. So sell McTominay and Henderson, that's 160 million straight away from 100. So for me, these are no-brainers, absolutely no-brainers. And also, if you use that 50 million, 60 million to buy Mount, you brought in another homegrown player as well. So it makes sense, doesn't it? So yeah, 91% of you would sell McTominay. That was pretty damning, wasn't it? Just on another story as well. I think this is coming in from where was this one coming in from? I think it's the Independent. Telegraph. No, sorry, it's coming in from the Telegraph about De Gea. What's worrying me about selling players is that these lot take forever to do things, so we'll likely miss out on the right replacements, says Jack. No. I mean, Jack, I normally would agree with you. I mean, I think it's absolutely fair to say that the normal perception of selling players for Manchester United would be, we don't buy until we sell. But already the evidence looks very different. And I think this is the Ten Hag effect. He's obviously really fed up with what happened last year. And he's obviously said to them, we are not having a scenario where we're waiting to sell to buy. Get the players in that I want. We've clearly spoken to Mason Mount a long time ago. We've clearly spoken to Kim Min-jae a long time ago. So that's 2 targets that we've spoken to before the end of May that want to come. That is not the actions of a club that's waiting to sell players before it buys them. I'm not saying Kim Min-jae and Mason Mount will be Man United players before the middle of July, but at least we've got those deals in action early. Which would be a positive. Whether you like those players or not, Ten Hag clearly does. Because the big thing to say here is, whether you don't want Neymar or you do want Neymar, whether you don't want Mount or you do want Mount, whether you don't want Kane or you do want Kane, whether you don't want Frimpong or you do want Frimpong, if we end up getting those players, they're early players. It's May. So it's not the end of August where we're talking about an Arnautovic and Rabiot. We're talking about players in May. Whether you like those players or not, clearly Ten Hag does, because we're talking and linked to them in May. Players you're going for in May are the number ones. It's like last year, Timber and Darwin Núñez and Frankie de Jong. They were the players being spoken about in May. Didn't get any of them. But they were the 3 players that they were number 1 targets for Ten Hag. When you're talking about players in May, and they are firm, like Mount and Kim Min-jae are, they're clearly number one targets for Ten Hag. So you might not like those players, you might love the idea of those players, but you've got to respect the fact that they are number one targets for Ten Hag. And that's encouraging that we're talking to them and that they want to come. Did Y see that strike by that Brighton player yesterday? He's only 19. You reckon he's a big player? Clubs should get what his talent, says Nathan Allen. Brighton's recruitment in general is just incredible. I don't even... You know what? Can I just say, I don't know what the score was last night. I don't know. I know it was 1-1 at one point, but I don't know. I didn't watch it. I had no interest in it. It was 1-1 full time. Anyway, let's go back to this story from the Telegraph. David De Gea's contract. It's always good to talk. It's always good to get a bit of a debate going on, and obviously people have got their stance on what they do and don't want at Manchester United. So effectively, what you've got is that David De Gea has signed his contract. No, David De Gea has not signed his contract. David De Gea wants to sign his contract at Manchester United. The terms have been agreed. There have been negotiations going on. It's ready to be signed. However, Erik Ten Hag has got to sign it off. According to the Telegraph, he's got to sign it off. So there will be now people reacting to that going, please, Ten Hag, don't sign it off. Don't sign it off. Don't sign it off. And maybe that'll happen. Maybe that will happen. Maybe it won't. I think David De Gea is going to sign the contract, and I think we should be prepared for that. I don't think there is actually what I would call a saviour for Beth here. I don't think that Ten Hag is going to go, no, I'm not signing it off, let him go for free. So I think he will sign the contract. I think it's all about timing. Like, the Lowe contract hasn't been announced yet. Rashford's is going to happen really soon as well. And I think De Gea's will get signed. Yeah, I think it will. I think they will get signed. But, look, I'll always be honest here. I like De Gea. I want him to stay. I think he's had a good season, and I want him to stay at the football club. But what I will say is this. If Erik Ten Hag said, okay, we're being bought by Qatar, I can sign Costa from Portugal. Thanks for everything you've done, David, but I'm letting you go on a free. I'd be stunned by that, because first of all, David De Gea does deserve he'd deserve a proper send off, wouldn't he, against Fulham? So they'd have to be doing that proper. Look, what I'm saying here is, if Ten Hag was going to let De Gea go, that needs to be announced tomorrow, so that on Sunday the crowd can give David De Gea the send off that he wants. Absolutely no way are Manchester United going to let De Gea go, or should they let him go, without a proper farewell. So I don't see that happening. And I think even the people that want De Gea to go would be pissed off with the club if they announced in June we're not renewing his contract and he's left. So for that to happen, it would have to be announced in the next 24 hours that we're not renewing De Gea's contract. And I just don't feel like that's going to happen. We've got an FA Cup final a week on Saturday, which he'll be playing in. I just don't think it's going to happen. I just think it will get announced at some point in the near future that he is staying. You can believe that if you want to. You can defy that logic if you want to. But if you're getting your hopes up that Ten Hag is going to go, yeah, I know we've spent the last few months working on this contract, but actually I don't want him to go, then I think you're surprised. Charlie says you call for ruthlessness from Ten Hag, but want this? But it would be stupidness. It's not ruthless. If he was going to get rid of De Gea, he should have known by now. You can't negotiate a contract for the last 6 months and then suddenly go, actually I'm going to get rid of him. And if you are going to do that, he needs to do it before Sunday so that people can give De Gea the goodbye that he deserves. So I just don't think that'll happen. If it does happen, you know me, I'll support the manager, but I can't see it happening. Kim, welcome to the Members Club, legend. Thank you very much for joining. But I'm sure there'll be a lot of people out there that are hoping that that's going to happen. I wouldn't be surprised by that at all. That's just the way it was. But yeah, somebody just said there, I mean, Do you think this summer transfer window will be better than last summer? I think, as I said, I said this at the start of the show when I wasn't muted. I can't speak. I said this at the start of the show. I think that we always, it's in the human psyche to always think we know more than we do. And I think we look at Erik ten Hag and we think we know him better than we do. But when you actually look at it, there's clearly going to be shocks this summer because we don't know enough about Ten Hag. He came in the middle of May. He had a chaotic summer transfer window where he went on tour without new signings, where he didn't get a lot of the players that he wanted, and then the players he did want, it took bloody ages. He lost his first 2 games of the season and changed his team around. And then Ronaldo happened, and then the January transfer window was terrible. We aren't seeing Ten Hag ball yet, which hopefully we will do. But I don't think he's operating with a team he's happy with. I think he's operating with a team he has to use because he's literally had so little time in a year to analyse the quality of these players. And I think this summer, after a year, there will be players in that team. It's going to shock you. I think we might see a player go or two that's going to shock people. And I think if Fred goes, it's a shock. But he might just look at Fred and go, he ain't the sort of player I want. Bye-bye. And I think there'll be shock in recruitment as well. I think Mason Mount shocked me, but it shouldn't shock me because we don't actually know a lot about Ten Hag yet because it's been such a chaotic first season in many ways, and he actually hasn't had a lot of time to analyse that squad and start making the changes he wants to make. I mean, I'm not going to say that he's going to sell Varane, but, it wouldn't surprise me if something big did happen. I mean, logically, Sancho will still be here next year, but it wouldn't surprise me if he loaned him off. If we bottle top 4, are you Ten Hag out, says Chris. We're not bottling top 4 tonight. Watch along tonight. That's the party. Get the point. Champions League football. Let's get it done tonight. But, yeah, I think that I fall into the trap, and I think probably many of you fall into the trap, that we think we know. We think we know Ten Hag, and we know a lot, but we don't know all of it. And logically, when you think about it, some people, maybe even myself, was saying, hopefully he'll sell Maguire last summer. Well, he was never going to sell Maguire last summer because he didn't have time to look at that team. And he's probably, Lindelof is ahead of Maguire now. Was Lindelof ahead of Maguire in the summer? No, he wasn't. So, Dalot, Wan-Bissaka in the summer. Wan-Bissaka was nowhere near that team until Christmas, and now he's starting right back. So, I think Wan-Bissaka reflects what I'm trying to say the best. It was impossible for Ten Hag to come in the summer and go, right, McTominay, Maguire, Henderson, Williams, you all need to go now. And Wan-Bissaka would have been on that list. But then 6 months later, he's our best right back. So Ten Hag himself is learning in this first 12 months. So how can we predict what he's going to do? And I think this summer, you're going to see, if he's given the power to do it, you're going to see big change. But even this summer, I don't think he'll have time to get rid of everything and do everything he wants. I think this was always going to be a 3-year plan. He won't be able to recruit everyone he wants, and he won't be able to get rid of everyone he wants. And maybe deep down, someone like Jadon Sancho is a player he wants to move out, but he probably won't do it this summer. He'll probably go, I'll give him another year, but really, he's not part of my plans. So, look, we can't predict Ten Hag, and we can't be shocked by Ten Hag because we don't really know everything about him yet because he hasn't had long enough to do the things that he wants to do, just like any other manager. We went crazy when we heard about Arnautovic, but we were supportive of Weghorst. Arnautovic is the better player. What happened to the fans on this, says Daniel? Well, there was bigger things at play with Arnautovic as well, wasn't there? There was things that he'd done and said in the past that just didn't fit well with this football club and pissed a lot of people off. Hi Mark, I'm heading to Fulham game at the weekend and I'm going to Wembley next weekend. As an Irishman, never thought I'd be at an FA Cup final. Up United stands, says Patrick. Well, look, I think that FA Cup final is going to be absolutely huge, isn't it? Absolutely huge, and I'm really excited about it. But first of all, we've got to get the Champions League done, haven't we? That's what we've got to look at. But no, I really enjoyed the show this morning. I think speaking about Ten Hag and what he's trying to do, I can see the positives. He, Mason Mount, Kim Min-jae, they clearly want to come to United. Now, that to me indicates that we're looking to get deals done early. This time last year, you didn't have Timber wanting United. You didn't have Darwin Nunez wanting United. You didn't have De Jong wanting United. In fact, opposite. So it's good. It's good that that's happening. And obviously, that's because of Ten Hag that he wants to get things done sooner. 3 points against Lampard's Chelsea, easy. Come on, boys, says Steg. Anything on the sale? I'm like you. I'm a mushroom. I'm in the dark. All I know is that there has been this update that tomorrow or Sunday or Monday or next year we will get some updates. Obviously, I'm hoping that it will be a full sale and the Glazers will go. The cynic in me is expecting Sir Jim. It does. I just feel like it feels like it's going to be Sir Jim. I just feel that. But there's no logic. It's 50-50. But it feels like it will be Sir Jim to me. Even the transfer targets feel more Sir Jim than Alfani. But we'll see. Harry says, apparently we're front runners for Casido. I'd love that to be the case. But I don't know. I don't know on that. Gut feeling is Ratcliffe as well, says Abdul. I heard Mount is unhappy because other players are on higher wages, so it's all about that, says Malcolm. Well, I don't want to finish on a negative, but there's talk that Mason Mount will triple his wages at Man United. Does that surprise you? We talk about the recruitment team. Does that surprise you? You know, I don't know what Mason Mount's wage is at Chelsea, but it will come down to wages. Of course it will. Which is sad, but money. Football's about money, isn't it? Look, Anthony's wage went up by 10. 10. He was on 20 grand a week apparently, and he's now on 200 grand a week. So even the players that you want to sign, we still pay them stupid money. So why would Mason Mount be any different? But remember, Liverpool are probably paying that. Arsenal are probably paying that as well. So he makes 80 grand a week at Chelsea. We'll give him 200 grand. We'll give him 200 grand. Definitely. Definitely. We'll give him 200 grand easy. So we'll probably 2.5 times his wages. United have a limited budget this summer, and any funds spent on a new goalkeeper should be spent on a second striker or a midfielder, says Nicholas. We do need to bring a goalkeeper in, though. We can't have Dean Henderson as the understudy. He won't be happy with that role, and him and De Gea don't work well in that position. So we have got to buy a goalkeeper. I don't know who it's going to be. We've been linked with so many. We do need to bring a goalkeeper in. It can't be Butland or Heaton next year. But, yeah. Anyway, thanks everybody for watching. We are back tonight. Obviously, we'll have the road trip this afternoon. If anything breaks, we'll go live. But it's an 8 o'clock kickoff, so it's the watch along tonight. Make sure you tune in. This is where we win the 4th place cup. Maybe even the 3rd place cup. Champions League. Champions League, baby. Let's get it done. Speak to you all in a bit. Take care.